It's my pleasure today to be talking to Dana McCauley, the head of the Canadian Food Innovation Network. How you doing, Dana?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you come to Smart Kitchen Summit in June in Seattle because partly you just have an amazing background. You've been a chef, you've been a food writer, you've developed products, you're this food trend expert. You've even been a TV personality on a lot of big shows. And so it's an amazing background. But that's not even like your biggest achievement. You're the head of the Canadian Food Innovation Network, which is this really interesting organization to me.
Glad
But
to hear
why
that.
don't you tell our audience what the Canadian Food Innovation Network is?
Sure. The one thing about a bio like mine is that it says you're old without saying you're old, right? Um,
Yeah.
but I do feel like a lot of my experiences prepared me to be the CEO of the Canadian Food Innovation Network because we are about helping every food and beverage business in Canada reach their full potential. And sometimes that means that we are connecting them to international contacts and collaborators as well. So we do get to have more than just an impact on Canada. We do our work by creating ways to bring a lot of people together from whether it's food service, grocery retail, food manufacturing, all their partners. We try to get them into both physical and online spaces like our Yodel platform where they can talk about what's happening, what they're seeing, share ideas. And as you know, that's how innovation flourishes. There's rarely one person who has this amazing idea. It's almost always an integrative experience to get to really great ideas. And then once those ideas emerge, then we also have funding from the Canadian government to help people to do product market fit test bed type projects to de-risk technologies and make them ready for implementation at the industry level. So it's really we get to meet so many cool, smart people, and we get to feel really gratified by being a part of them doing really cool, important stuff.
Yeah, and you guys do invest quite a bit. I think I read that you guys have invested or awarded more than $17 million
Yeah.
around 59 food tech projects to date at this point across things like robotics, AI, etc. What are some of the more interesting projects and technologies you've worked on over the past few years?
We made one of our very first funding announcements was in a company out of Oakville, Ontario, which is where automotive has been a thriving. It's a more glamorous Detroit, I guess, in some ways, and so it's known for technology, but not necessarily restaurant technology. And this company Gastronomist set up in Oakville because they had come from automotive and they said, you know what, we want to make automations that really change how restaurants work. So, not your gimmicky, sort of a mechanical hand that flips a burger, but really rethink how production flows through a restaurant. So they started working with one of Canada's biggest food service companies called Recipe, which owns burger joints, barbecue joints, some nice casual restaurants, but really a massive company for our country. And they have done some really amazing things, including developing this thing called the Chrono Grill, which makes it much less difficult for a person to work over a grill making burgers. Also makes it safer. There's less shrink. Every single patty gets probed, so food safety is improved, and it's unlocking not only millions of dollars in productivity for the outlets that Recipes using it at, but it's also getting them way better online reviews because they discovered that in a regular Harvey's, which is their burger chain, that somebody working on the grill because they were fearful of food safety issues and very busy, that they would, cook a patty for 7, 8 minutes when it really only needs 4 minutes to be cooked appropriately. So now the burgers are more succulent and their online reviews are just like through the roof. So I love that project because it's got multiple benefits, including ones that hit the bottom line, but also, just hit the brand line as well.
What strikes me about the Canadian Food Innovation Network is I don't know if there's an analog to that in the US. I think it's a really cool program where you guys are helping catalyze the innovation ecosystem around food and next generation technologies. Um, it seems fairly unique to Canada. I don't really see anything like that in the US.
It is a very Canadian thing. So we have a ministry of innovation, science, and economic development, which is a national body, and they had something called the Strategic Innovation Fund, and they made networks for many industries that were very fragmented and were lagging in productivity, including food. And it's no different in Canada than other places. The food industry is, as you know, when you say food manufacturing, well, that's really can be broken down probably into dozens of different verticals, and we're spanning more than food manufacturing. So it would be impossible to do what we're doing as a private enterprise. We know that we can be economically sustainable in the future, but to start it and all the investment that went into creating the tools like our online connector platform Yodel, the runway to getting to break even is very long and very difficult for private enterprise to do. We've had some inquiries from some other countries, though, in the Middle East, for instance, who are like, wow, even South Africa. I had some chats with some folks there who are like, wow, could you teach us how to do that in our country? So, I can success map what we've done, but it probably takes either very patient capital or government participation to get it up to momentum and to make it sustainable.
Yeah, and I think that patient capital is critical because, as you know, things like food robotics and these are technologies take a lot of time to gestate and implement and get out of the field, see what works, and to then get the operators to actually adopt the stuff writ large. So I think that's a really great program that you guys have. You are looking across all these different technologies and probably thinking a lot about the future and where it's going. I'd love to hear what you're most excited about on like a 10-year time horizon around what technologies will change the face of things like restaurants
Yeah.
in Canada and elsewhere.
I'm really excited about two things. When it comes to restaurants, the promise of precision fermentation and cellular food has opened up a whole new world of creativity. So right now, if I run a restaurant, say I am a fantastic, notable chef, I still can only buy the same steak, the same piece of fish, the same anything as my competitor. And where I can differentiate myself is on service, obviously, and on my recipes. But there's only so much you can do there. But in the future, think about this. If I am, have an amazing palate, I could go to a company that doesn't exist now, but this kind of company will in the future. And I could say, I would like a pork chop. I would like the flesh to have the flavor of Dutch tulip fed pork. I would like the fat to have the flavor of acorn fed Iberico pork. And you could literally have a proprietary protein that would differentiate you completely from your competition. That's mind blowing. Now that's probably more than 10 years out because it's very complex to even create an edible piece of ground meat right now using those technologies. AI, of course, is transforming so much of what's happening. A lot of people are really fascinated and, in my opinion, a little bit distracted by the generative AI, which is very, very helpful and really interesting, and I use it a lot myself. But the machine learning subsection of AI is where I think that food service in particular has amazing opportunities to increase productivity. If you could get the right kind of a kitchen and it's really only will work for new businesses that are creating their kitchens from scratch. But if you could get the right types of sensors and monitoring equipment, you could become so much more efficient, really reduce your shrink, really up your consistency. And that chrono grill example is sort of a little micro example. But if you could integrate those kinds of technologies throughout your business, you could just have amazing efficiencies, and adopting that innovation would make you much more competitive. And that's where I think there's an interesting opportunity. We have a member from the Atlantic region who has this great idea for how to use responsive technology using AI that will monitor how often a server goes to a table and how often that going to a table results in their check amount increasing and satisfaction levels increasing, and also will help to monitor how many steps people are taking. Are your sections too big? Are they too small? All that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of really interesting opportunity with that kind of technology.
Yeah, I think it's super exciting next decade. I was just out in California or in Chicago, and a California startup was showcasing a company called Cloud Chef, this technology that would basically record an expert chef's making of a meal and then allow someone who doesn't know how to cook to play that back and essentially cook it themselves. And I watched it in action yesterday, and it worked really well.
Love it.
My partner here at the Spoon cooked a meal she had never cooked before, and it actually tasted really good. So I think those types of stuff, and that involves what you're talking about, more kind of the machine learning, computer vision type of technology. So
Well, yeah, VR too, right? Like I'm
yeah,
imagining that
exactly.
if you could integrate VR with that, like the training possibilities would be amazing. And we do have a company that's using all of those things to automate in food production environments so that training and knowledge transfer is much more seamless. Because right now, if you have somebody who's worked for you in any kind of a business for 15 or 20 years and they retire, there's whoosh, things go like this before they go like this.
Yeah, if you could capture that knowledge and allow some sort of system to augment the new onboarding people to give them those superpowers, I think that's really powerful. And I think that's where a lot of that technology will be used in kind of the back of house, because like you said, so much of that institutional knowledge goes with the people when they leave. So, but Dana, you're doing amazing work. I'm really excited to hear and more from you in June in Seattle at the Smart Kitchen Summit. And where can people find out more about Canadian Food Innovation Network?
Yeah, online we're cfin-rcia.ca. The RCIA, for those who aren't familiar with Canadian URLs, is sort of the French version of our acronym. Yeah, you can find us there, and just go to your favorite search engine and type in Canadian Food Innovation Network. You'll find us.
Well, thank you so much, Dana, for your time. This has been great.
I've really enjoyed talking to you. Can't wait to have more conversations in June. It's really exciting to be involved.